This is CBC Here and Now.
What's proposed today, but certainly from Newfoundland and Labrador's perspective, we'd be anxious to proceed in a quick fashion.
Premier Andrew Furey and Canada's other government leaders sit down in Ottawa with the Prime Minister. Their challenge, finding a way to fix healthcare.
It's more about the efficiencies and the economies of time rather than the economies of dollars.
Flying high, a new plane hangar is being built at YYT for private jets. We'll have those details coming up.
It feels like a dream. I think I've pinched myself so many times that I got multiple bruises on my arms from it. It's just a dream come true.
Yes, not a dream, but reality as St. John's teen meets some of today's greatest hockey players. That's coming up a little later in the show. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Well, it could be a case of no news is good news. Both sides in the strike that has shut down much of Memorial University met face-to-face today. These members of MUNFA continued to walk the picket line in St. John's while their union leaders were behind closed doors with MUN administrators and a conciliator. Talks began this morning and wrapped up by early afternoon, with both sides agreeing to meet again tomorrow at 2 p.m. The strike is now 9 days old, and today was the first time since the walkout began that the two sides met. 850 MUN employees are on strike over three main issues: job security for contract employees, post-retirement benefits, and a bigger say in the future of the university. A lot of eyes are on Ottawa tonight. Canada's premiers and the Prime Minister have spent part of the day behind closed doors, hammering out a deal that fixes some of the massive problems in the healthcare system. Reporters spoke with Premier Andrew Furey this morning as he was heading into the meeting.
Morning, Premier. What do you think is going to come out of today? Are you going to have weeks of negotiations after this, or is this it?
Well, we'll see what's proposed today, but certainly from Newfoundland and Labrador's perspective, we'd be anxious to proceed in a quick fashion.
Quick fashion means you walk out of here and there's a deal, or you've got to work?
No, I think we kind of see today what the framework of the deal is. I think the Prime Minister has been very open in saying he's not expecting a deal today. We're not expecting a deal. What I'd be quite happy with is the framework towards a deal and a quick and expedited timeline to reach a deal.
What about 35%?
What about 35%?
Is that a deal breaker for you? Like, premiers are saying they're going in with an open mind. Yeah, but your 35% ask. Why aren't you being more hardline on that?
Well, I think it's taken us 2 years to get here to what I think is a collaborative meeting, and we'll see what the proposition is, what the proposal is, and we'll move from there. I think whenever you're discussing from a negotiating perspective, there's riverbanks and there has to be some diplomacy, but also there has to be a healthy dose of pragmatism involved in where the country is right now and what Canadians expect from us, and they expect as leaders that we work collaboratively towards solution-based ideas for the healthcare system that is broken, so that Canadians can be proud of their system once again.
And we now know exactly what the federal government is offering. Here Now's Peter Cowan is here with a breakdown on that. So Peter, how much money are we talking about here?
Yeah, so the way the federal government bills this, it's a 10-year deal, and over that time the federal government says there will be $2.2 billion in funding. That's just for Newfoundland and Labrador, but here's the catch. Not all of that is new money, so let's break that down. So this includes $27 million right away, so that means in the next 2 months or so, in order to help with those emergency room issues that we've been hearing all about in the news. Then there is $210 million to ensure that at least there is a 5% increase to the health payments that the provinces get each year. The next is big money, the $750 million, and that's going to be a deal that Newfoundland and Labrador needs to work out with the federal government. More on that in a second. And then there's $105 million for mental health, long-term care, as well as home care. So in total, if you're adding up the new money, it's about $1 billion, but remember, that's over a decade. So let's talk about some of the strings that the federal government's putting on this, because there are some conditions. It wants more data to be reported. So for example, how many people don't have a family doctor? How long is the COVID surgery backlog? How many new doctors and nurses have been added into the system? The federal government also wants assurances that as they put money into the system, the provinces don't pull it out. And they'll also need to commit to investing in 4 key areas, as well as meeting some benchmarks. So that's things like access to and supporting primary care, improving mental health and substance use help, modernizing the system. So, for example, giving patients more access to their information digitally. And the premiers right now are holding a news conference reacting to this news. They just got the deal this afternoon. And here's what Andrew Furey had to say just a couple minutes ago.
Provide some certainty projected into the future to allow us to tackle the fiscal equation of health. I would echo Dennis's comments and Premier King's comments that it shouldn't be just about money. It needs to be about modernization of a healthcare system that is really stuck in the 1960s. And some of the conversations that began today certainly help us to develop that. From a smaller jurisdiction, which is perhaps why you lumped some of the Atlantic premiers together, there is a bit of a transformation and an approach here that I think needs to be recognized on behalf of the federal government, in that with the bilats, there is contemplation for complexities surrounding demographics, geography, and economies of scale. And I think that from Newfoundland and Labrador's perspective, that is a win for us, as opposed to the per capita formulation basis from before.
So there are a few things there that the Premier likes. We heard overall, though, from the different premiers that this isn't as much money as they've been looking for, but now that they've got the details, they're going to go back and look at it, because remember, this isn't a deal. This is just what the federal government has been offering, so now it'll be up to the provinces to sit down and try and see if they can get more money out of the federal government. Reporting live in the newsroom, I'm Peter Cowan for Here and Now.
Well, it was another chilly morning across the big land. We saw those temperatures dipping into about minus 37 for Lab City today. Those temperatures across the northern peninsula into the minus 20s, and then even low-lying areas through central and even Deer Lake minus 28 overnight last night. Otherwise, temperatures on the west coast were in the minus teens. And then the warmer temperatures were further east, relatively speaking anyway, about minus 6 in St. John's. Today, not a whole lot going on. We got a big ridge of high pressure. We did see some cloud cover, though, across a good chunk of the Avalon. But lots of blue sky out there today. We've got some more cloud cover moving in across Labrador. You're actually going to see some snow, especially in the west as we head through the night tonight. And then we've got this area of low pressure, another nor'easter. That's what's bringing that cloud cover at the moment, but it's also going to track south of the island again tonight, bringing the potential for some significant snow, at least something you have to shovel anyway. I'll get into the full forecast details coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, as we reported yesterday, 2 contentious bus shelters outside the gathering place in St. John's are still standing for now. City Council and Metrobus agreed not to remove them, but say there are issues with safety that need to be addressed. But for some, those shelters are more than just a convenience. Garrett Berry from the St. John's Morning Show spoke with Doug Pawson of the group End Homelessness St. John's.
I think, given the complaints and the concerns raised by residents, users, community organizations are all founded and happy with that decision, although there's still yet to be determined an outcome of what's next. It seems like there's still a need for the folks to continue to work together to find a plan, and the concerns, on my end would be, if we're removing access to public services like a bus shelter, who does that adversely affect? And is that considered a human rights and should be treated as a human rights concern? There's a lot of sort of comments online about the effects of it just being a bus shelter, but it's a bus shelter today. What happens at the next public space that is closed down or is fenced off or cordoned off, so that folks who are part of that community, the disability community, or those who may be experiencing homelessness, are cut off access from, that wouldn't be cut off to other folks. So today it's a bus shelter, but tomorrow it's something different. I think everybody's trying to do their best given the housing crisis in our communities, but But the reality is as a whole community of stakeholders and folks delivering services, we're stronger when we work together, and so that collaboration is going to be key to address the long-term housing crisis needs, but also those in the immediate needs right now.
Well, we have an update for you now on a story we first brought you a few weeks ago. A former member of the Canadian Armed Forces from this province is no longer receiving updates on an Afghan military interpreter she's trying to bring to Canada. Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada stopped sending the information after Newfoundlander Lisa Compton spoke to CBC about her efforts. The department insisted she and the interpreter, who is now in hiding, fill out a new web form to grant them access, but the information remains inaccessible and the interpreter's life remains in danger. The CBC's Rafi Boudjikanian has the latest.
The frustration is unreal.
Since Kabul fell to the Taliban, Lisa Compton's been trying to help the Afghan military interpreter who shielded her years ago from a bombing attack come to Canada with his family.
They have had threats. He's had to change his SIM card numerous times.
Compton is a retired Canadian Army nursing officer. The family she's trying to assist got to Pakistan from Afghanistan. Since 2021, she's been representing them with Immigration Canada, getting updates on their files faster than they could.
He's terrified.
Last month, she told CBC News about the year-long wait in their processing. After that, she was told he must fill out new paperwork so she can keep representing him and his loved ones.
Kind of absurd when you realize that you're informing, the IRCC that this gentleman is running and hiding from the Taliban, and his family has to flee constantly from one place to another, and now they want you to update a form.
The two documents barely differ. They ask identical questions. The newer version replaces the Immigration Department's former name, Citizenship and Immigration Canada, with the one the federal Liberal government adopted in 2015, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada.
It definitely causes delay and potential access issues.
This immigration lawyer says it is unusual for the IRCC to request new forms unless there is some kind of change to the representative's info.
Vulnerable claimants who are in risky situations have difficulty submitting their applications and their supporting documentation.
But the email we've seen from an IRCC staffer to Compton just says they are unable to process the form since she provided an earlier version.
We went for our nighttime.
The interpreter says he snuck out after dark from his temporary shelter near Islamabad to fill the document online. We're hiding his identity and even his voice to protect him from repercussions.
We are still waiting.
Though the IRCC has received the new form, it tells Compton registering it could take up to 10 business days. The department would not discuss individual cases with us, but in a statement it admits an applicant's form would typically remain valid unless there were changes to be made, such as contact info. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
Well, now to Labrador, where there's a new search and rescue service. The RCMP in Mary's Harbour says it welcomes the addition of the newly formed Labrador Southeast Coast Ground Search and Rescue Team. The team will service the needs of communities from Lodge Bay to Charlottetown. The RCMP says the team is made up of local people who have knowledge of the area, and they'll provide support when search and rescue efforts are needed for people who are missing or overdue, stranded, or injured. Police say the team is currently in training and eager to get started. Well, a big and unexpected drop in gas prices to tell you about tonight. The cost went down by nearly 9 cents a litre overnight. The fuel price regulator says the change reflects a significant decrease in the benchmark price for gasoline in New York. The cost on the Avalon Peninsula is now $1.61 a litre. Other fuels aren't affected by the price change. Well, since the pandemic, commercial air travel has yet to fully recover in this province and around the world. Over the holidays, the industry was plagued with staff shortages and delayed or canceled flights. But for those with pockets deep enough to fly private, there will soon be more infrastructure at the airport in St. John's. Here now's Heather Gillis explains.
It's a construction site for now, but this is where a new hangar for private and corporate jets will be constructed near the St. John's Airport.
And that patch of trees.
Mark Dobbin, president of Killick Capital, is one of the people behind the project. He says they'll build a condo-style hangar with 5 bays for private jets, where individual companies can own or rent the bays.
When the pandemic first started in 2020, commercial air traffic here at the St. John's International Airport ground to a halt, with only about 5% of normal volumes taking off and landing here at the airport. However, with time, Dobbin says, private and corporate jet travel, well, he says that started bucking the trend.
The business jet market, the corporate aircraft, saw significant flying volumes, and we're actually in 2021 and 2022, the volumes were above pre-pandemic levels. So the demand is quite strong.
In a statement, the St. John's International Airport estimates 10% of their landings are private aircraft. About 12,000 planes landed last year, roughly 1,200 of them private. Dobbin, whose father Craig had a long aviation history with Canadian helicopters, says private travel is up for a number of reasons. First, there have been fewer commercial flights since the pandemic started, making charters more attractive. Plus, he says people perceived pandemic safety as a factor. Dobbin says there's a need for a private jet hangar because the province is sometimes passed by.
I know incidences where someone has flown here for business meetings for a couple of days and had to send their aircraft back to somewhere like Halifax or Gander. It's not so bad when it goes to Gander, but if it's got to go all the way back to Halifax, we're losing business out of the province.
Flying private will set you back a lot more than the cost of a commercial flight, but for those who can afford to travel that way, he says it's not about the money.
It's more about the efficiencies and the economies of time rather than the economies of dollars.
While there isn't much activity on site here on this February day, Dobbin does expect construction will be complete by the first half of next year. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, now to the West Coast, where some snowmobilers helped save the life of a wild animal over the weekend. Devin Knight of Steadybrook was out riding with 5 of his friends on Sunday between Cormac and Gros Morne. They were coming down a big hill behind Angus Lake when they saw a hole with 2 ears sticking out of it. It happened to be a moose stuck in the snow. The snowmobilers were traveling with shovels, so they got to work and within about 30 minutes dug a ramp from the hole. Knight says they moved away from the area to not cause the animal any more stress, but they kept an eye from a distance to make sure the moose got out.
You could tell he was pretty tired, right? He was kind of stumbling around in the hole. There's a stream or a little bit of a river under the snow. So you could tell he was cold. There was a little cut on him. He wasn't bleeding, I guess, but more just a bit of hair worn off on one of his hind ends. But he probably wouldn't have left at night. It was a pretty rewarding feeling watching him leave.
We're very friendly about it, very genuine, and it was just a really cool encounter to see those guys like up close and personal.
Well, first it was play-by-play and color commentary. Now Seth Hyde is mingling with hockey's elite. We'll hear the latest from the teen who's turning heads in professional hockey.
I've got another round of snow on the way for the Avalon. Also some roller coaster temperatures. I'll have all the details coming up.
A change maker is someone who is able to put the needs of others before theirs.
Dedicates themselves to making a better tomorrow for everyone.
They can work together towards the common good.
I am a Black change maker.
I am a Black change maker.
I'm a Black change maker.
Meet the Black Changemakers at cbc.ca/Black Changemakers.
This weather forecast has been brought to you by Newfoundland and Labrador Tourism. Whatever you're up for this winter, discover experience packages at winterupnl.ca.
Well, just before we get to the weather, we have an update for you on a fun story that we brought you from New Brunswick last night. 4 Fredericton men have returned to Canada as toboggan champs.
Yeah, the team won 2 awards at the U.S. National Toboggan Championship in Maine over the weekend, including taking home a trophy for the best crafted toboggan. Take a look.
We went down to the U.S. National Toboggan Championship and we won the best crafted toboggan, which is amazing because there's hundreds of toboggans that get built for this thing, and to be recognized as the best one was quite a feeling. And not only was it the prettiest toboggan there, it was the 3rd fastest. One of our big improvements on the sled this year was switching from ash runners to maple runners. Just the density of the wood itself helps it glide along a little quicker. I built this out of walnut and bird's eye maple, and instead of bending anything, it's got a plywood frame that we then put these rails on the sides that we could weave our mat into. And from what I've gathered down there, rigidity wins races, and I wanted to make the most rugged, rigid sled that I could, and I think we're on it. After I built the sled, the weave itself took me, it was over a week for me to put this thing together, and it was just a lot of back and forths and over-unders. It's a lot of work, and you really, at the end of the day, because it's a year apart, you don't know if you've done something spectacular, and there was so much wow factor for the sled yesterday. Everybody seemed to be pointing and looking, and within a crowd like that, who appreciate toboggans, it was a great feeling to be singled out.
Interesting. Well, the team was the 3rd fastest in the 4-man division with a time of 10.5 seconds. And the team says they're already talking about next year's competition.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun.
Here in this province, we had a bunch of snow come down overnight, really good for tobogganing.
We certainly did. For the Avalon anyway, saw about 10 centimeters, give or take a few centimeters across the island, but sure, it was coming down at night last night for sure. And temperatures a lot colder than they were yesterday as well. We did see that drop. So it is pretty much an ice rink out there yet again. But let's take a look at those temperatures out there across the board today. So I showed you the overnight lows, and up across Labrador, your temperatures really rebounded today, -11. So that deep thaw is over for now. -14 in Cartwright this afternoon. Those temperatures still in the minus double digits for the Northern Peninsula, West Coast, and then starting to warm up, or will warm up, I should say, as we head through the night tonight again. Further east, -3 was the daytime high in St. John. So that was a little bit colder than we have been seeing, but we do have a big ridge of high pressure in place for the most part. A beautiful day across the island, lots of blue sky as well, a little bit more cloud cover for the Avalon. That's because there's an area of low pressure just to the south with that cloud cover, but we do have some clouds moving in across the big land as well. This is going to bring some snow as we head through the evening hours tonight. Temperatures much warmer than yesterday. In fact, 10 degrees warmer in Lab City today, and then across the island, no surprise, a lot cooler, anywhere from 3 to 8 degrees colder than it is, or than it was yesterday, I should say. A little bit warmer though for Twillingate and Cartwright, Twillingate and St. Anthony. between 1 and 2 degrees colder. So as we head through tomorrow, we're going to see another warm up. That area of low pressure is also going to bring some milder temperatures with it for essentially the eastern half of the island. Not quite as cold either up across Labrador. You'll start to get back into that colder air though as we head into Thursday. That colder air will sink further south, so back below zero. And then another warm up for the weekend. Temperatures back up above zero for the eastern half of the island as we see another area of low pressure move through. Cold sets right back in again for Sunday, and then we see another warm up as we head into Monday. So certainly a big roller coaster ride as far as those temperatures are concerned. Right now we're sitting around -11 for Lab City, so you're sitting pretty much where your daytime high was, about -21 with that wind chill. So all of the cold warnings have ended, so temperatures actually feeling a lot nicer than they have certainly. And then across the island your temperatures are sitting like I said, between -6 and -12. Wind chills not overly impressive, but they certainly are feeling a bit colder though as you head towards the east. St. John's, Bonavista, Cape Race, all seeing those wind chills in the -teens. Now, as we head through tonight, temperatures pretty moderate, relatively speaking, considering temperatures have been in the -30s in that deep freeze across the Big Land, but you're still looking at those winds out of the south between 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. So you'll certainly see a wind chill tonight. And we've got that across the island as well. Temperatures into the -teens. Corner Brook -14. And then St. John's actually will sit around -4. The winds are going to pick up though. Northeast, or they're already pretty breezy, but they're going to stay breezy as we head through the night tonight with those northeasterlies between 40 to 60 kilometers per hour. So we will see a wind chill. However, temperatures are on the rise, especially as we get into the morning hours. Actually, we'll see those temperatures up above zero tomorrow, but look for those temperatures overnight tonight into the -teens with wind chills in the -20s, and then up across Labrador as well as we get into tomorrow. You're looking at those wind chills into the -20s as well through the day. Now we can see that area of low pressure offshore right now spinning. It actually is pretty beautiful on satellite, and out ahead of it we're seeing some of that cloud cover. So that's what we're seeing right now. We'll see eventually that precipitation start as we get into the early morning hours tomorrow. But overnight tonight, not really a whole lot to talk about. Just some flurries will scrape the Lab West and head towards central Labrador as we get into the morning. This is when we'll start to see that snow. Look at where it is though. Even a little bit of a shift further east will pull that snow with it. So keep that in mind for tomorrow. If we don't really see that snow, it's because that area of low pressure was a little bit further east. Temperatures will be fairly mild as well, like I said, but as we head into the evening hours, back down below zero, and even quite nice up across Labrador as far as the cloud cover goes, but you're looking at your temperatures in the -20s. As far as snowfall amounts go, we're looking at a quick 5 to 10 centimeters. We could see some pockets of 10 to 15, but again, will completely depend on that track, much less as we head towards central. I'll get into the long range forecast coming up.
Well, a St. John's teen had the trip of a lifetime this past weekend. 14-year-old Seth Hyde met hockey superstars like Sidney Crosby on the red carpet during the NHL All-Star Weekend in Florida. Now, you may know Seth as the young hockey commentator who was recently invited to call the play-by-play at a Growlers game, but he was also selected as one of 27 young people to be part of the NHL Power Players Youth Advisory Board to help attract more young people to the game. And Seth is traveling home from Florida right now and joins us from the airport in Toronto. So Seth, a long day of travel for you and a lot to take in from this past weekend. How are you feeling about it all?
I mean, it feels like a dream. I think I've pinched myself so many times that I got multiple bruises on my arms from it. It's just a dream come true. I mean, it's something, you know, the All-Star Game's something I've been watching ever since I could walk. So to be actually in the building was amazing.
Can you tell us how this trip came about? How were you asked to be part of this group of young people chosen to advise the NHL?
So we're subscribed to the NHL email account. So like we'll get all the emails about stuff that's coming up. And we actually saw the Power Players email on the way back from a hockey trip to Halifax. So once we got home, we did the application, I'd say just 10 minutes before the deadline. And my parents wanted me to go to bed, but I said, no, I had to stay up and finish this. And so here I am. So it's yeah, that's how we figured it out, by email.
You know, many people will be watching this and saying it's pretty impressive for a teenager from here to be helping map out the future of a major league like the NHL. How are you dealing with that and the attention that comes with it?
Well, I've always thought that my job, if you will, with the power players is to speak on behalf of us Newfoundlanders. You know, us being from such a small place in North America, 500,000 people. You know, we need to have a voice in the hockey community, if you will. So I see myself as kind of that, representing Newfoundland and trying to improve the NHL in that sort of sense. So it's yeah, that's kind of my job with it all.
And what was your message on this advisory council? What did you suggest to the NHL to improve its popularity with young people?
Well, we've had a lot of ideas. They're just kickstarting NHL Street, which is kind of like, I believe we have it in Newfoundland, NBA Junior. So like they'll go around different communities and have street hockey in schools and stuff. So we're really trying to push the game through school, because as we know, that's where kids spend a lot of their time too. So I think school is the main focus right now for this group, and I'm definitely, you know, trying to push that as well.
And just curious, you know, what are your friends and your family saying about all of this?
They're very proud of me, you know, doing all this stuff, but it wouldn't have been possible without my family, my friends, and all my fans out there. So.
And what's next for you now? Any other big organizations calling you yet?
Not yet, but hopefully that'll come in the next few years.
What are your plans? What would you like to do next?
I definitely, you know, like to keep calling hockey games. I kind of want to, you know, take a little break now and just focus on school a little bit and spend some more time with my family and friends. So I think this will kind of be like my holidays now coming up.
Well deserved, I'm sure. Seth Hyde, congratulations on such an interesting weekend that you had, and safe travels home. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Municipalities have to have a good understanding of what the changes are going to be.
We know changes are coming to health care. The Central Newfoundland mayor wants his town and its residents to be ready. We'll tell you why when we come back. We told you earlier about the meeting in Ottawa today between the premiers and the Prime Minister about health care. As you know, in this province, healthcare concerns reach right into just about every community. In Grand Falls, Windsor, there's a town hall tomorrow night to talk about what changes are needed and what changes are coming to the healthcare system. Mayor Barry Manuel joins me now. So Mayor Manuel, can you talk about why the town decided to hold a town hall on healthcare?
Well, yeah, no problem. This has been done in conjunction with the Grand Falls Windsor Healthcare Coalition. And basically, that's a group that was put together over a year ago. And they have been looking closely at the health accord, along with council, attending the town halls, getting informed on all the information. And we want to share that information now with the residents of Grand Falls, Windsor, and beyond. Obviously, healthcare is not the responsibility of the municipality per se, but as you would know, in the health accord, there's a lot of talk about the municipality's role when it comes to social determinants of health or recruitment and retention. We know there's so many issues with healthcare now when it comes to emergency room closures, and overburdened emergency rooms is the thing here in Grand Falls, Windsor. And you have the family doctor situation, which is a troublesome problem all across the province, and we're not immune to that. So it's about getting people out and getting them informed as much as we can, allow them to have their voice heard.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned, healthcare is a provincial and federal responsibility. So what does it mean when a town like yours and others that we've heard from in the province, what does it mean when they're actively getting more hands-on when it comes to our healthcare system?
Well, I think it's a good thing. And really, we want to be willing partners and cooperative in the process that's going to be the implementation of the health accord. We expect a new provincial health board to be implemented and starting in the spring of 2023. And I know a lot of the decisions are going to be under their authority and the provincial government. So, municipalities have to have a good understanding of what the changes are going to be. There's talk of community teams, for example, which would be a whole different way of providing health care to patients.
We've been doing a lot of healthcare stories. We know that the town of Bonavista, for example, is offering incentives to attract doctors. Fogo Island has just announced that it's finally been able to find a permanent physician to work there. Can you tell us a bit more about the situation in Grand Falls, Windsor, when it comes to the availability of doctors and your emergency room?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. I mean, what we're looking at now is a family doctor shortage, not quite as severe in terms of having nobody, but we're a community that's used to having, 20 to 30 family doctors practicing in our community. And that number has been cut by at least 8 or 10 physicians and more that have gave notice that they're going to be closing their practices as well. So it's a huge issue. And I think if government and the health accord are looking at a problem to solve, it's the family doctor problem that would help a lot of other issues as well. And as far as the piece around incentives and that sort of thing, it's I guess commendable that a community is being proactive like Bonavista. But the problem is there's a lot of Bonavistas in Newfoundland and Labrador, and just in central Newfoundland you hear about New West Valley and down the Canaga Peninsula, St. Albans, and Harbour Breton, and the Bayvert Peninsula with Bayvert. All those are having emergency room closures, which is causing people to have to travel long distances to get to Grand Falls, Windsor to the Emerge, which is already overburdened. And then you have the whole piece about burnout and, having the long waits and everything else that comes along with it. So again, back to the health accord, that's a document that's, designed to address a lot of these problems, and they're complex, and we want to have a part to play to help.
So the information in the health accord is going to be the major focus for the town hall tomorrow night. But I mentioned that our premier, along with premiers from all the other provinces, are in Ottawa right now meeting with the Prime Minister about healthcare funding. Are you paying attention to the news coming out of that? Is there anything that you're hoping you'll hear come out of those meetings?
Yeah, absolutely paying attention. And I wish Premier Ferry all the best, and the other premiers. I just hope something gets done, for the healthcare of people all across the country. Something needs to get done in terms of an agreement. We know that the federal government has to provide more funding. I do believe it should be the provinces who have control over how that money is spent, just because the problems are different and different circumstances across the country. But I hope something gets done, because then we can get on with the business at hand, which is the health accord, the new provincial authority, and doing things differently and better in Newfoundland and Labrador, so that the citizens of the future will have good, solid health care, and we can do that in a feasible manner.
Well, Mayor Barry Manuel, thank you so much for your time and good luck tomorrow evening.
Thank you, Carolyn. Appreciate it.
Well, the scenes coming out of Turkey and northern Syria are quite simply shocking. Tonight, people around the world are responding to the call for help. And after the break, we'll tell you what's being done by some people in Atlantic Canada.
Aquaculture pioneers. Back in the early 90s, Doug and Jennifer Keynes were farming scallops in Fortune Bay. Watch for this archival special, Sunday at 11:30 and Monday at 7.
Canada is joining the growing list of countries sending relief money to Syria and Turkey after yesterday's earthquake. The number of dead has now risen to 7,200, and that number is expected to climb higher. Meantime, international search and rescue teams are flooding into the affected areas to help. Earlier today in Aleppo, Syrian rescuers freed a child trapped between slabs of concrete.
على راسك من ورا على راسك ساعدني على راسك يا هارون ساعدني يلا هارون يلا يلا ساعدني لا تسحب راسك ساعدني يلا طول بالك لا تسيب
Wow, teams are in a desperate search to find survivors, digging through debris in the extreme cold, sometimes with their bare hands. More than 8,000 people have been rescued from the rubble in Turkey alone. Tens of thousands of people are injured, and close to 400,000 have taken refuge in shelters or hotels. In Syria, more than 1,800 people are dead and thousands hurt. The 7.8 magnitude quake was followed by a series of strong aftershocks. The destruction stretches hundreds of kilometers across southeastern Turkey and neighboring Syria. Well, while Canada is heeding the call for help in the aftermath of that earthquake, local Turkish and Syrian communities in Nova Scotia are also coming together. The CBC's Colleen Jones has more on how they're responding.
When the earthquake struck, it stirred memories for Ergol Kokabas, who runs the Mediterra Turkish grocery in Lower Sackville. In 1991, in a devastating quake in Turkey that killed 17,000 people, he and his friends helped in the rescue.
And I spent 2 weeks in the area at that time. You cannot imagine how hard it is. It is too hard, especially for the people, and there is nothing to do. This is nature. There is no warning. You cannot do anything.
24 years later, he lives here in Nova Scotia, but the memory still vivid, plus the need to help in this humanitarian crisis. He's a member of the Turkish Society of Nova Scotia. So is Burcu Kaptan. They've started a fundraising campaign and hope Atlantic Canadians get behind it.
We collaborated with Credit Union Atlantic. They're going to do this for free without taking any money. So anything that people put in will go to Turkey, will go to the region, to the people who really needs it.
Meanwhile, Syria, a country already in crisis before this weekend's earthquake, they are suffering too. At least 900 dead, many injured, and help? Well, Omar Aliso hopes the world doesn't forget Syria. He is the chairman of the Kurdish community in Nova Scotia.
Whole Syrian disaster, and this is come add to their pain and loss, and it's terrible.
With phones down, he was relieved to reach his brother and hear they're doing fine. But the bigger picture, northern Syria needs urgent help.
The United Nations chief said we should pay attention to Syria also, even the regime under, but we have to help North Syrian people. But till now, just talk, nothing serious. So,
in a world full of problems, he hopes the international community steps up for this latest crisis. Colleen Jones, CBC News, Halifax.
Well, now back to a story we brought you earlier in the show. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is pledging nearly $200 billion to fund and reform Canada's healthcare system. The Prime Minister revealed the details at a meeting with the country's 13 premiers today. The money will be spread over 10 years, and about a quarter of it is new funding, which the premiers think is low.
There wasn't a lot in the way of new funding. That is a part of this package that has been put together by the federal government. And so, I think to say the least, I think we were a little disappointed at that.
The money will be distributed nationwide through the federal government's Canada Health Transfer, and there will also be separate agreements with each province and territory to meet their specific needs. In order to get the money, Ottawa is asking for a commitment to improve how health information is collected, shared, used, and reported to Canadians. It's an effort to promote greater transparency on results and to help manage public health emergencies. Okay, so time for a look at the long range, and temperatures are going back up a little bit, right?
Yeah, we're going to see temperatures definitely on a roller coaster, especially for the eastern half of the island as we head through the weekend. We start tomorrow. So let's take a look at that temperature. About 1 degree, so a little bit warmer than today, but we are looking at that snow through the afternoon, through the morning hours, and then it'll taper to flurries in the afternoon, but it'll still be a bit breezy as far as those winds are concerned. So we'll likely see some local blowing snow. And then through central, you're looking at your temperatures around -1, -3 for the west coast, pretty much northern peninsula, and then minus single digits for a good chunk of Labrador. except in the west where your temperatures will hover around -16 for tomorrow. Now, as we head into Wednesday evening and then through Thursday morning, we're looking at some snow along the west coast of the island in onshore flow, and then the potential for some flurries as well along the northeast coast and including the Avalon as the day goes on. Up across Labrador, you're looking at a pretty nice day as far as sunshine is concerned, but overall you may see a few flurries in the mix. It shouldn't be anything really as far as accumulation goes, but you still may see a few flurries. Your temperatures will be into the minus teens, and then across the island back down below zero between -3 and -9 or -12 for the northern peninsula. As we head into Thursday evening and then Friday morning, we'll start to see that cloud cover on the increase, and then our next system will move in. This will spread snow across a good chunk of the island as we head into the evening hours, and then eventually Labrador will see that snow as well. But we should see some sun to start, so it'll actually be a fairly nice day. Temperatures about -7, -8, and then warming temperatures, as you can tell, along the south coast between -1 and -3, but they're even going to warm up even more as we head into Saturday as we see that warm pocket of air move in. As far as Labrador is concerned, your temperature is really not moving too much, but again, you'll see that snow move in through the day. Long range forecast, there's that roller coaster back up above zero for Saturday with that chance of a few showers in the mix, and then Sunday flurries to start at least, and your temperature around -5. Now, as far as Central is concerned, you're looking at a fairly nice weekend actually, with some sunshine and temperatures in the minus single digits, and then more onshore flurries. The story for the west as your temperatures sit between -2 and -6. Eastern Labrador, you're looking at a snowy start to the weekend on Saturday, but Sunday looks beautiful, and opposite for Lab West as you see sunshine on Saturday and flurries. The story for your Sunday. Just before we leave you tonight, speaking of the Big Land, what a beauty shot. This is after the storm in Goose Bay. Jody shared that lovely shot with me, and if you have any, send them to Facebook, Twitter, or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca. Isn't that a beautiful snowy wood walk?
Gorgeous. I just want to run down that path with my arms out and knock all the snow off the branches. Do you have that urge now?
Sure do. Why not? Looks like
gorgeous.
Fun.
Love that pic. Do that sometimes in my woods walk.
Do you?
Yes, sometimes. Well, that's it for us on this Tuesday evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good night.